On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, Dylan, it's the greatest week of the year. It's the Red River Rivalry Week. And yes, it's the appropriate name. I will not listen to any other discussions or discourse. You will be blocked. Dylan, to begin here, number 1, Texas versus number 18, Oklahoma. The game is Saturday, of course. But not, of course, is the 2:30 p.m. Central Time kick. Do not show up at the wrong time. You will look like a fool to your friends. The game, of course, is at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas, televised on ABC. The Longhorns are favored by 14.5 points. Now, Dylan, get us into that scouting report of yours of the Oklahoma defense.
Well, first, Devon, is this better that it's at 2:30 versus 11 a.m.? What's the mental thought process around this as a Texas fan?
You know, Dylan, I used to want to push back the kick, but I like it at 11. It just feels right.
Mm,
It's bright and early. If it's a win, you have a great rest of your day. And if it's a
yeah.
loss, well, yeah, it sucks to suck. I don't know, Dylan, but 2:30 p.m. There's going to be a lot of drunk fans. There already were a lot of drunk fans. So I don't know if I would like it if I was a player. But Dylan, it doesn't really matter what time you put it. I know these teams will wake up and run through brick walls, and the fans will too. Yet again, if you put it at 5 a.m., they would be still probably just as inebriated. But anyway, scouting report. What do you got?
Yeah, Devin, I expect this defense to be playing better than drunk OU fans at 2:30 during this game, because in all honesty, it's kind of crazy that this is the way that it's flipped, Devin. Normally, I'd say Oklahoma's best chance is winning is their offense. Defensively, though, this year, this is not the same Oklahoma team. Obviously, Zach Alley, co-defensive coordinator, along with head coach Venables. Obviously, Venables is going to have his handprints all over this football game. So I expect for them to do what they've been doing all year, and that's be aggressive on defense with disguised blitzes. And they're going to want to get Texas to get the ball out quick. And if they hold it onto it longer than they should, let's say more than 2 seconds, OU is always going to be sending 4 to 5 to 6 guys at Quinn Ewers in this game. And statistically, Devin, they're only allowing 16 points per game. It's 19th in the country. They're only allowing 105.6 rush yards per game, which is 27th. And they're 4th in the nation when it comes to turnovers, averaging 2.6 per game. However, their weak point is going to be the passing game. They've allowed 218.6 pass yards per game, sitting at 75th. So that does not fare well against a Texas offense, Devin, that, in all honesty, just wants to throw the ball anyways, because the run game hasn't been, let's say, like spectacular like it has been last year and years prior with other notable running backs that's come through the Texas program. So expect a lot of pressure on this safety group for OU, and that's going to be led by strong safety Billy Bowman, Devin, your boy. He's got 23 total tackles and an interception on the year, but also a bit of a wild card here and a tone setter for this defense. Free safety Robert Spears Jennings. He's second in total tackles, Devin. And again, I know he's a free safety, right? So safety shouldn't be too high up on the list, but man, do they send him into the backfield a lot. He's got 3.5 tackles for losses and 2 sacks, as well as interception and 2 forced fumbles. So look out for Spears Jennings in this game, coming off the side or up the middle to get at yours. And then obviously look no further when it comes to their linebacking group, Devin. You've got Danny Stutzman, 40 total tackles, 2 tackle for losses, and probably a billion documentaries
Everyone's
or
favorite player.
media clips going into this game, showing off his hair and what he drives and how he likes to handle himself. So those are the 3 big impact players going in this, Devin, as well as defensive end R. Mason Thomas, who's been noted as the closer for Oklahoma. He has 5.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, and ultimately put that game against Auburn away for this Oklahoma team.
Dylan, that's a lot of names. The Oklahoma defense, no surprise, is pretty solid. As Dylan was talking about, is somewhat ironic. It seems like Oklahoma the past X amount of years has been an offensive predicated team. However, after Lincoln Riley left, seems like the team is taking on a little bit more of a Brent Venables identity, especially this year. And I'll talk about the Oklahoma offense and why the offense has not been doing too great. But Dylan, To begin, in terms of yards per game, and I apologize for my voice. If you guys put up with it, I'll love you forever. 121st ranked offense in terms of yards per game. Guys, there's only 133 teams. So 121 out of 133. I don't want to be your math teacher. Not too great for the Sooners so far this year. And part of that, Dylan, starts with the quarterback position. Of course, Jackson Arnold, our boy, another Denton guy, did not start the year too hot. He got benched halfway against Tennessee, and in favor came in Michael Hawkins Jr. out of Frisco Emerson. So he's a Dallas area native. So Dylan, it's going to be a big game for the young quarterback, the freshman quarterback. Hawkins has played also up and down, in all honesty, along with Arnold. And so we're going to see if Arnold makes his way into this game. Of course, Longhorns fans, you don't want to hear a Caleb Williams name, but I just recommend do not chant for backup quarterbacks against Oklahoma ever again. We did not expect that, and Dylan, they got what they asked for, maybe a little too much what they asked for.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hawkins, watch out for his ability to run the football, Dylan. That's a big point.
I will say too, he's a freshman, but he is a confident player. I think that was a big reason they went to Hawkins instead of Arnold to finish out that Tennessee game. Because obviously offense did not look good against Tennessee, but Hawkins looked like he actually was ready to be there, and the moment wasn't too big. I still believe in Arnold's talent, but it did not look good for him against Tennessee. So I don't think the moment's gonna be too big for Hawkins in the way that he plays, but it's that consistency with his passing game, Devon. Let's say that's gonna be tested.
Yeah, Dylan, in confidence, especially if you're an Oklahoma quarterback, seems like they've always got it. Hawkins has looked quite confident. He's going to have to be against this Longhorns defense that has a cage dog at Anthony Hill Jr. that we reiterate every week. Colin Simmons is also coming alive as a freshman as well. But then you have all the names that have been there for a little bit. Ethan Burke, now Trey Moore on the other side. Texas has the talent that's going to make you run. For Texas, though, a key point in this game that I want to emphasize, Dylan, because we did not see it last year, and it's probably not really going to be talked about, but gap control. Their rushers have to stay in their lanes against Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel was looking like he was test driving sports cars out there, just going left and right, Dylan, playing with the hearts of the Texas defense. So that's something to watch out for. Hawkins is a mobile quarterback, so he's going to have to be more efficient offensively in the passing game, but also watch out for him in the rushing game. A spy is probably going to be utilized quite often. However, Hawkins is a fast quarterback as well, so sometimes that's not enough. The gap control is quite important there. Now to begin about some of the other position groups on that offense, Dylan, it's just not been a great year for Oklahoma in terms of luck. I mean, we're talking about skill play and talent on the field, but they've just been decimated at that wide receiver position in terms of injuries. Their leading guy, Deion Burks, expect him to be playing this weekend. However, he did miss last weekend's game against Auburn. Go figure, Dylan. These guys like to return against Texas. I'm not sure how that adds up. It just happens. And Oklahoma already missing Jaleel Farouk for this game. He suffered quite a sizable injury at the beginning of the year. Nick Anderson also is doubtful for this game as well. Nick Anderson had a big game last year against the Longhorns. I'm not going to reiterate what happened in last year's game because the Texas fans will not love me. But just receivers in Oklahoma, just injuries, Dylan, injuries. So we're going to look at the running backs here. Javante Barnes is leading the way so far with 199 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, which, as you can tell just by stats, Dylan, not a sexy stat to throw out at you as a running back for an Oklahoma team. Yet again, we talk about offensively. The Sooners always have someone that is just compiling yards like crazy left and right. So running backs has been an issue. And then to complete the trifecta here, Dylan, because I'm going for the Triple Crown. And I'm bringing on the hate. It's okay. I'm trying to be putting it plain and simple here, black and white. The Sooners' offensive line is tied for 110th. Remember, 133 total teams. I'm not going to do the math again. 110th in the country in sacks allowed with 2.8 sacks allowed per game. just not been great. The Sooners offensively also rank 118th in passing offense and 100th in rushing offense. So overall, they've been in the bottom third of college football from an offensive standpoint. However, we'll talk about it a little bit, Dylan, but the Red River game, it never ends up how you expected. Last year, Texas was favored by a decent margin, Dylan. It wasn't as big as this year's, but it just didn't ended up happening that way because Dylan Gabriel exists. Now he's on the West Coast living his best life, but last year it was not Longhorn's best life. So Dylan, that's my scouting report from the Oklahoma side. Now we're getting into X factors. Who's an important watch for this game?
Yeah. So, I mean, with this Oklahoma defense, Devin, that front seven has been very good for them this year. It's been their secondary that struggled, in particular with their defensive backs. So, I believe that the best way to handle that, and I think that's what Venables is going to be doing in this game, is getting his linebackers into positions to have, in all honesty, force Texas to have more guys at the line that they want to, right? Put more tight ends, two tight end sets on the field, and there's less playmakers at receiver on the field, right? So that they're not spacing this Oklahoma defense and putting them in a bad spot. And again, the best way to defend this when you don't feel like you have those corners to match up well, send more guys. And I think where it's going to stand out is Samuel Omosigo and creating pressure with this linebacking group, Devin.
Wow.
Omosigo plays.
I heard a
Thank you.
pronunciation. Oh my gosh.
I had to go in the dark hell
Wow.
of
Okay.
player bios to find this and actually pronounce it. But Devin, he plays in their cheetah position, which is a hybrid linebacker spot. So while Stutzman backs up the middle of the field, and he's going to be somebody that you're going to be seeing all game on every play, basically. Omosigo is going to be the guy that is going to, if he can get a sack or two, will be a difference maker in this game because Spears Jennings is already going to be a guy that they're going to be sending out. Billy Bowman as well. And along with that, like I said earlier, R. Mason Thomas, the leader on the defensive line, he's already a playmaker. It's just that this Texas offensive line is so good. It's one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in the country. Sending 4 or 5 might not be enough to continue to generate pressure against Ewers. And that's where Omosigo's part in this game is going to be so crucial if Oklahoma wants to ultimately muck this game up and keep it close.
Well, Dylan, if the Oklahoma defense is good at anything, it is mucking it up. As you're talking about some of those members of the secondary, just in general, the turnovers have been their friends. And in this game, turnovers, as always, in every year's version, are the key. My X factor should be no shocker. If you're shocked, I might need to check you in somewhere. Quinn Ewers knocking off 2 weeks of rust. He's done it before, entering this game yet again in past versions. However, this is a different year. That Oklahoma defense has made a name for themselves, and just offensively for Texas in the rushing game, as Dylan kind of hinted at earlier, it has been quite volatile. Jadon Blue, 2 fumbles the last time Texas played. Trey Wisner getting his fair share of snaps. We're going to see how Sark decides to split up the two and see who takes the majority, Dylan, and who even starts the game. So those would be my 2 other X factors if I don't want to cheat and name the quarterback for a team. Would be that running back group for the Longhorns in general, because Quinn Ewers, yet again, a lot of pressure on him. He's going to be the X factor in this game for me, and I think for most people watching as well would agree with that. However, they're going to have to take some pressure off of his shoulders and be able to make Texas balanced offensively so that the Longhorns, can prevent some of the things that Dylan is saying in terms of sending extra guys, keeping Oklahoma balanced defensively, and not stacking the box with blitzes will be something that Sark, of course, is going to want to do on Saturday, and he's going to need his guys to be able to perform in order to do that. So, Dylan, now we're talking about, honestly, my favorite part of this just game, every time we pick it, is this part right here, the danger level, because hot takes tend to fly. Dylan, how are you feeling entering this year? Last year's, I believe, You had it pretty dang high, if I remember correctly. I think it was a 9. Go back and check, but are you feeling the same way?
Well, Dylan Gabriel is a difference maker for me in that game. I know
What
when I
are
was
you
making that danger
saying?
level prediction. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is obviously going to be the highest one I've had all year, right? No surprise there. But in all honesty, Devin, I don't have it as high as normally most of these matchups would go. I've got it at a 7. Again, one of the best rivalries in the sport. You can look at everything on paper. It all stacks
The
up
best.
all you want. Doesn't matter what's on paper. And Devin, one of the best again, right? Everybody's got their own traditions. This is a great tradition where you literally don't know what's going to happen in these games because Oklahoma could have it down here, and then Texas looks scared on the field, and then everything just hits the fan, right? I don't think it's the same thing going into this game with how Texas has been playing mentally. You saw that in their game against Michigan and how they've handled lesser teams this season. So I think the mentality behind Texas is not a concern here. My concern for Oklahoma is what they do well on taking away on defense, taking away run games. Texas wins by passing, so it's already a bad matchup with the receivers that they're going to have to face, Devin. So they're going to be in for a long one there. So I think the key here for Texas is obviously keeping Ewers comfortable in the pocket, but also there are just a million ways that this could go. Ewers, durability wise, if he gets hit a lot in this first half, could be an Arch Manning watch and be a big change in the season and how it goes with who's leading the team at that point. And then on the other side, the reason it's not higher either is Hawkins. It's gonna be tough when, yes, he can make some defensive linemen miss. The whole nother story when a rabid feral dog and his two brothers are coming after you all game, and Colin Simmons, Venda, and Anthony Hill leading the pack, right? So these are just such fast linebackers that it it's going to look like Bryce Young out in the NFL, where the same plays he was able to make in college is not working with Hawkins. It's going to be tough if Hill is put on a spy there, or just in general guys on the edge like Venda and Simmons are securing their spots. The game will go a wire if Texas does not execute and guys get out of what they've prepared for and their assignments.
I was laughing, of course, because we just love the dog analogy because those guys are just foaming out the mouth. I mean, Dylan, if you had binoculars and you're on the sidelines, I
Yeah.
wouldn't doubt you see some white foam coming out because they are just
Mm.
hungry and rabid. And that's great if you're a Longhorn fan. If you're an Oklahoma fan, watch out for those guys. But I was also laughing because you did mention Gabenda, and he's been great for Texas. However, this is kind of a revenge game for him. He got burnt doing late against Oklahoma last year, I believe, against Gabriel, as you're
Yeah.
talking about. And so for him, this game is extra personal, just proving the Oklahoma side that he's, kind of learned from his mistakes and is ready to get back at them. So it's going to be an entertaining game from that point. Dylan, the danger level for me, I don't like agreeing with you, which sucks because I just had a feeling you're going to go with a 7. I wanted to put a 6, but it's the Red River rivalry. Anything goes. That's what I wrote down. That's all I need to say. The Oklahoma offense has not looked pretty. But Dylan, it wouldn't surprise me if suddenly they've got prime Aaron Rodgers out there. The running backs look like prime Adrian Peterson, and
Mm.
it's just going bananas. And if I want to make Oklahoma references through and through, maybe I should say Sam Bradford, just to respect everybody. I know I threw Peterson in there, so I got to get some parallelism in there.
Mm.
But the Red River game, everyone hates each other. That's the beauty of it. And Dylan, it's just the most beautiful event in sports. I apologize for him kind of dissing the rivalry earlier by saying it's one of the
When did I
best.
diss it? I
It's
said
number
one of the
one.
best.
It's one of the best. He's doing it
That's a
again. It's
great
all right.
compliment.
We can tone him
How
out.
is that not a good
Look at me
compliment?
right now. We
How's
can
that not a
tone him
good
out. He's
compliment?
not on this side.
Oh,
Anyway,
this is
predictions.
ridiculous.
Dylan, what's your score prediction here in this game?
I'm gonna save it for after my long monologue, um, talking about this game, Devin. But I'm so excited because this has all the makings of a Texas blowout. It has everything of one team has looked great all season. They maybe had one area that they could have been better in. Mississippi State found a way to run the ball on them, so that can be a little bit of a concern for Oklahoma. They could figure out a way to get their running backs going. But against that defensive line and the front seven in general, it's going to be tough to do that, especially, like you said, they all hate each other. So everyone's going to be playing at their best, right? The one way I see Oklahoma winning this game is if they completely muck it up. It's 9-6. Ewers is just so broken at that point from taking so many hits from Venables' defense that Manning is out there, but he's not comfortable, and just everything's going wrong. And everyone on Texas is like, what happened? We had this perfect game plan, and all of a sudden got a personal foul call, brought back a first down, and Oklahoma has life again, right? Or some errant throw or fumble. But again, come back, Devon. Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden. These are the key players in this game. For Oklahoma, they want the ball to get out quick. The problem is Texas is designed to get the ball out quick. Sark wants to implement RPOs, quick throws on screens, allow their receivers to make plays after the catch. That's what they're programmed to do. That's why they get this talent. And it's just going to be very hard for Oklahoma to win this game if Ewers is able to stay in the pocket and have time. Because the proven method of beating Texas, and specifically Ewers in general, is when he's getting beat up in the backfield. He had all the time in the world against Michigan, so everyone was getting open, and he looked great. If that is how the offensive line holds up against Oklahoma, Texas has a great shot of winning this by a good amount. That's what I have predicted. Devin, I got Texas winning 35-20.
35-20. Oh man, I'm gonna
Yeah.
tease my.
Texas is legitimately better than Oklahoma. Legitimately. Texas is the number one team in the country for a reason. And I think that's going to show in this game.
I would like to disagree with you, but those are also famous last words to put on a prediction and preview video because it always ends up differently. But Dylan, yet again, I hate agreeing with you, but it just looks that way for Texas this season. This is a big, of course, obstacle in that road trip that Sark and the boys are taking. And man, would I like to be on that road trip, Dylan? It's been beautiful so far.
You know how many Bucky stops you could go on?
They made Bucky stops. They haven't been to Arizona, but just the vision has been beautiful, like a nice Sedona sunset. However, in this game, Dylan, anything, like I said, can go. The question is on the Oklahoma sideline, however, we talked about that offense. The defense, no doubt, is going to have to muck it up. They're no doubt going to have to create turnovers. If they don't,
they have to make it disgusting. This game has to be so disgusting for Oklahoma.
I don't know if it's going to rain, Dylan. I don't think it will, but just the imagery. We need green jerseys for both teams. That's the sort of game Dylan's describing right there. Think Chicago Bears on a rainy night. But for the Sooners, yet again, offensively, they're going to have to channel something that they haven't shown, quite frankly, this season. And yet again, it is in part, not fully, but in part justified. I'm not trying to sound biased here. They have dealt with quite a few injuries, Dylan, to a position group that really was the strength of the offense heading into the season. So they're going to have to channel what they have left, Dylan, just health-wise and motivation-wise. They're not going to need it. I mean, this is the Red River rivalry. Excuse me. I'm so pumped. I can't even pronounce words anymore, Dylan. If you need motivation against Texas in the Red River game, I don't want you on my sideline if I'm Brent Venables. I don't. You get off. Go take a trip somewhere else. I heard Oregon is great this time of year. Go.
It actually is. It's a great place to be during this time of year.
You see, I'm turning red, Dylan. I'm so excited. I'm not even on the Oklahoma sideline, but I'm ready to do something. Now, all that to say, as I try to calm down and go back to my natural complexion here, Michael Hawkins is going to have to do an excellent job, not only throwing the football, but also running the football, because history has told, Dylan, that running quarterbacks are the way to kill the Longhorns. I hate to say those words, but that is naturally and tends to be the trick. Now, furthermore, to further aid Dylan's point earlier, the mucking it up, Mississippi State did an excellent job of mucking it up that first quarter, maybe quarter and a half, but definitely the first quarter. And you know why? That time of possession battle. It seemed like they had the time of the possession the entire quarter, and you look up and you're like, wow, this is a pretty even contest. Now, those two teams, Texas and Mississippi State, from a talent perspective, are nowhere close to being even. This is a little bit more even in terms of just sold talent. And Texas, of course, recruiting rankings wise, is usually superior, but Oklahoma recruits Dylan with the best of them. Venables gets his guys typically, and just defensively, we talked about the Sooner squad. They are quite good, but we've also talked about the Longhorns from the wide receiver perspective. I mean, Dylan, I can mention every single name, but it gets tiring. You know, they have
Yeah.
Wingo, Bond, Golden, dot 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 dot. Even DeAndre Moore, for crying out loud, is
Yeah.
looking like a wide receiver one in the NFL draft. Now, I don't think that's happening. Don't freak out. It's a emphasizing point. Don't hate me. All that to say, Hawkins might be the real X factor in this game, so I changed my prior X factor pick. Watch Quinn Ewers, watch Michael Hawkins, and more importantly, enjoy. This is Red River weekend. I hope you eat as many corn dogs as I. I don't think you'll get close, but it's a nice challenge, isn't it? But more importantly than our predictions, let us know what your score pick is down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out at hornsports.com for all the latest in Texas news. And as always, don't forget to have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend, guys.